All right, I appreciate everybody making the time, coming out, listening to our presentation. We are Baseline. I'm Eli Herrick, co-founder and CEO. We started building Baseline about 5 years ago after I graduated from Duke. Pulled in Zack. We've got Patrick up here as well.
Thanks again, guys. I'm Zack Ladner. I'm our COO of Baseline. I've worked with hundreds of facilities at this point, and I'm excited to share with you today what I've seen from some folks who have been able to reach that seven-figure mark and hopefully share some information with you guys on how you can be on that journey as well. We have Patrick Stanley with us. Patrick is a Baseline customer, but he also is so much more than that and will be able to provide some great insight. Patrick is the owner and operator of Complete Game, which is a seven-figure facility, but Patrick is also a co-owner of Complete Game Solutions, which is a facility consulting business helping others reach that same seven-figure mark as well. So we're super excited to have him today with us.
Now, the first thing to know about building a seven-figure facility is that it's hard. There are not a lot of people that can actually get to that standpoint, and we're not saying $1 million is what success is, but we've just running all the numbers, going through millions and millions of data points. That's the number that we used of this is a scaled facility versus a smaller facility that's still going to get to that stage. So the first thing to know is that it's hard to do. Not all paths are equal. We can't tell you these are the steps to do, but we can tell you that three things that every single facility that's gotten to $1 million in revenue has done and exactly how they did that.
You know, the one thing I think of is the quality of life. And the thing that always stands out for me was early on in my facility was I was the business. If it wasn't me there doing lessons, nothing was going to happen. And then it quickly realized that I was going to have to make a choice. Am I going to be the business and not be with my family, or am I going to be able to work on the business and be able to spend time with my family and work on the business?
So really what we're going to show you today is not only how to build it, but also how to build it and have a life outside of baseball, that you're not just giving lessons every day to try to pay your mortgage. So what does $1 million facility look like? We're all baseball people here, so figured we'd throw in some stats. $1 million over 12 months is $83,000 a month. That's what you got to hit to cross $1 million in revenue. The average transaction size for $1 million facilities that we see is only $286, and the active client number is 137. So it's not like you have to go get a ton of clients. You actually have to do something else, which we're going to get into, but it's not getting a ton of clients. What you do have to do is have a ton of unique event offerings. So all the $1 million facilities we see do a lot of stuff, and that turns into a lot of dollars. So not a lot of clients. You do need to have a lot of offerings, and there's a lot of other things that people think that you need to do that you don't actually need to do. One of the things that we're most impressed by Patrick with is how much he's been able to do with a facility that's less than 10,000 square feet. So it is possible to grow into a multi-million-dollar facility with less than 10,000 square feet. I think Patrick's about to cross $2 million in annual revenue without a huge building. So that's the first misconception that we see a lot. Honestly, if we would see Patrick come in today with it's like a 9,800 square foot facility.
Well, that's once we expand again at the end of this year, but currently we're sitting at about 7,500.
Incredible. So if we saw a 7,500 square foot facility come in, we would not expect that to be a $2 million business, but somehow Patrick's been able to do it. Patrick, could you tell us some of the other things that when you're consulting with folks, what they think they need to do to build $1 million business?
So when we're working with clients, other facility owners, it really mirrors what I do with my own business, and that's looking at cost centers. Cost centers are a major factor for what slows the growth of a facility. A cost center could really be anything. It could be your facility. It could be your staff. It could be technology, equipment. The thing that you want to look at is when I have something in place, am I able to monetize that? Right? That staff member I have, is that staff member only doing what is put on their plate and nothing more? That's a cost center. Or are they actually generating revenue? And that extends to the programs we offer. It extends to your facility. If you look at your facility, you know, every 1 by 1 square foot piece of space there, that's costing you money. Are you maximizing that? So what we find a lot of is facilities will come in and they'll think, well, I need more technology. If I had this other technology, that would bring in other people. We have some facilities that will bring in technology and they don't even offer that service yet. But they're spending that money, or they're thinking, if I just had something bigger. That's one of the biggest things that I see is that they have space that's just not generating revenue.
And it's kind of the anti-ABCA of you have to think like a business. You can't go buy the latest and greatest flashy thing that's not going to actually bring people into the building. It's not going to get your account value up. The most important thing to building $1 million plus revenue facility is a customer buy-in. So you need to invest in your clients. You need to find things that are going to drive revenue from each individual client. You don't necessarily need to go find a bunch more people. You don't need to give hitting lessons to everybody that lives in the city that your facility's in. You need to find your people and give them as much value and get as much buy-in from those clients as you have. So what we see with scaled facilities is significantly higher dollar per user value than smaller facilities. So think about it as, I'm not just trying to sell one thing to everybody in the region around me. I'm trying to get everybody in the region around me bought in. And I don't need that many people. Remember, 137 clients is the average user number for $1 million plus facility. So you're trying to get buy-in. You're not trying to sell the same thing to everybody around you. So 59% higher value per user. That's the biggest key. And that's what we're going to keep going back to across this whole presentation. Now, there's 3 different charts that we're going to go into that define how you get to that $381 per user number. This first one here, the chart on the left, is a scaled facility. So that's what $1 million in revenue looks like. You have the same number of users generally, but you see how it's significantly shifted to the right. There's significantly more users that are bought in, and they're spending more money at your facility every month than the other chart on the left here. So maybe I got them backwards. Yeah, but you can see that there's this huge hump of users that are getting invested and spending more money at your facility every month than people that are coming by and just doing one lesson, just doing one rental. The second chart here is higher ticket value. So you're still selling the same events. You don't have to make up anything new. There's no secret of if you run additional pitching versus additional hitting. That's not really what the numbers told us of how you build $1 million facility. It's how much value you're getting out of each thing that you're doing from those users that you have. So the biggest one here is event value. So everybody runs events, but how do you run the most cost-effective events for the space that you have? So one of the pushbacks that we get, and Zack sees a lot, is I don't want to overcharge my users. I want to keep creating value. I don't want to penny pinch and make parents pay more than what the value is. So Patrick, what's one of the ways that you can actually justify having higher prices and getting more per user for the same kind of events?
Well, you can put them into higher offerings that are fit for them. We offer a lot of different types of assessments. We have different technologies and different programs that are not built for every player. I've even had parents come up to me and say, "Hey, I want my son to do this." Well, that's not right for them. That's not yet, but we'll get to that point. But there's other players who, to be honest, they're coming to us because they want their kid to be developed. They want their child to grow and get better. When we have certain programs in place that may increase the cost of what they're currently spending, but will rapidly accelerate their development, that's something that people want. But the key is to only offer that when it's the right time.
And we see a ton of success with personalized programs to really make sure that each family is getting exactly what that family needs at that time. The second component of this is low churn. So now that you've got this customized program for each family and you're making sure that you're meeting them where they're at, it's also retaining them. So having those higher ticket items for each event that you're showing actually gets that buy-in from the athlete, and putting them on that plan and making it custom tailored to them keeps them in the system longer. So it is really about each one of your families that's at the facility and making sure that you're meeting them where they're at, getting the buy-in, and then you can charge more money because you are creating that value for that family. And it's not just putting everybody into as many events as you can run every month. So to recap, so far, the biggest unlock here is dollars per user. You're trying to create the most value per family that you can deliver. That's through a lot of offerings, but you don't need a lot of users. So customer retention, customer value, and getting the most activity out of people that you have in your facility. You don't have to go get a bunch of people. So
Eli, with the customer retention, I think another thing to kind of highlight in on is to not stay static, right? Parents, they look, they may not know what you're talking about. I remember a long time ago, my brother gave me some great wisdom. He said, look, the parents are most likely not going to know anything you're saying from a baseball perspective, but they will know if you care about their kid. And when your program is static, that kind of sends a message back to them that, you know what, we're doing well enough to offer, what we're doing. We don't want to go above and beyond. When parents see that your program is dynamic, it's continuing to change, that's a big factor in retaining those clients. Our client retention rate is over 97%. And parents note how much they see the change in our programs, whether it's through technologies, our booking platforms. But the key is, and all the clients that we work with, that we consult with, 100% of them do not want to be static. That's why they're coming to us. That's why they're wanting us to work with them. The issue, though, is when you're dynamic and you're trying to bring new offerings and make changes, are those changes going to move the needle of your revenue? And the other thing is showing them a runway that says, hey, I know you're 9 years old and that expensive high-speed camera isn't necessary for you today. And it's not necessary because we can physically see what's going on with your movements. We can change and make some adjustments based on what we see. But when that time comes, when we can't see that anymore, well, we're going to have a technology for you. When that time comes where you want to be recruited to college, we have a full built system to help you and your family get there. So for them to see that vision, a lot of times people leave, they'll never give you an explanation why. They don't want the confrontation, but they leave because they feel your program has taken them so far. And that's one thing that really can cost a company.
So how do they do this? We're not going to tell you how to coach, but we do have a lot of data on what makes a successful business. We're going to focus on the business numbers for the secrets of building $1 million facility. So secret number one, everybody that scales to $1 million has payment plans. 44% of the payments that we see on our platform, and we see millions and millions of payments, are scheduled transactions. So you're not going to get to $1 million facility selling walk-ins. If you're trying to sell every lesson, every time someone comes in and selling one event at a time, it's just not possible to get to $1 million. So the way that you do it, 100% of the facilities that we work with that have scaled to $1 million plus have teams. And those teams have team payment plans, and almost everybody has memberships as well. So especially with Baseline and how we've designed the whole platform, is that you can run your memberships with your teams in the same place, and you don't have to have different platforms talking to each other, which has been an enormous unlock for us, and being able to pass those tools along to our facilities and let them run it exactly how they want to. But really being able to have people bought in and saying, I'm going to pay you this much money, and you don't have to take it all up front, but having that much money over the entire year and scheduling out those payment plans, that's the biggest key to how you get those customers to stay in your facility and to spend a lot of money, is to get the buy-in up front and then to have those payment plans over the whole year. It also helps with lumpy revenue. I think the biggest thing that our investors are annoyed with us about is how seasonal the business is, because every winter when you're doing team fees, everybody's making all their money up front, and then you kind of have to buckle down for the rest of the year. The facilities like Patrick that are making many millions of dollars aren't doing that. They're not getting all of their money up front and then trying to make it through the rest of the year. They're doing payment plans and scheduled payments so that they can pay their mortgage, they can pay their rent on the facility space year round. So payment plans is the biggest unlock that we've seen. A baseball facility, it's a specialized gym. At the end of the day, it's a very specialized gym that you're trying to get the buy-in from your users and trying to not have them churn out. So payment plans are the foundation to building $1 million business. Now, within that is, how do you put all those pieces together? So some of the tangible ways that you do that, Patrick, how do you make the most out of each square foot in your facility? Going back to your note earlier about the cost centers, everything in your facility has to pay for itself. How do you do that?
So I look at it like Tetris. I'm sure everybody in here remembers Tetris. Maybe some still play it. The biggest issue is making sure that those pieces can fit in the right spots at the right time. A lot of the facilities we work with, they have two common things that they think is going wrong, of why and this may speak to somebody here, you're working harder and things are busier, but that bottom line is not really changing, certainly not comparable to the rate at which you're putting in the work. They think, well, if I had different pieces, then they would fit better together and I would be able to grow more steadily. And that's things like technology, that's softwares, that's trying to expand their offerings into things that quite honestly don't even match their identity or even their sport. And other people think, well, if I just had a bigger board, this one's too crowded. I need a bigger board and then I can, but all of that equates to a higher cost center. Back to what we were talking about earlier. The key is to take the right pieces and fit them in the right place at the right time. So when you look at your facility, when we go in, part of what we do with our clients is we come to their facility, wherever they are in the country, we will come out to their facility and we will spend time doing walkthrough and just look and see how they have things set up. We have yet to have a client where our assessment of their business is you need more space in order for this to work. Most of our clients have more than enough space. It's just how they're fitting in not only the programs, their configurations, but also how they've structured their programs. I was talking to a gentleman the other day. He said that he has less teams than I do. He offers them less training than I do, but yet his schedule seems to be too full. So we started talking about programs and things like that. So it's really just taking a different view of your current space and how you optimize your time.
And that really underlines, stop selling availability. Stop thinking of your whole business as I have to do X number of lessons, I have to do X number of rentals to pay the bills at the facility and still have something to take home. Think about it as selling access. You're trying to build programs and you're trying to build reoccurring payments that are going to pay you even when you're not at the facility. And even when those athletes aren't in the cages, they're still paying you for access to be there. So I think Zack's seen this more than anybody else at the business, of people coming to him and saying, we've got all these pieces. How do we fit them in your platform? How do you fit them in the software? Zack, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with an assessment of what the priorities are. And so this, again, a little foreshadowing here, but if the priority is group training, then we need to make sure that the schedule is out early enough so that the group training is blocking out the cages. If you do want to have all of the offerings available, if you do have enough space for group training, lessons, rentals, memberships, all of the above, you get your high priority things in there first. You then determine what those buffers should be to say, okay, maybe I do want to allow rentals, but I don't want someone to go rent a cage 7 days ahead of time. I'd rather see if there's group training that we can put there. I'd rather see if there's a private lesson that can be there. So it really is working closely with our customers to determine what those priorities are. We certainly do offer, some advice and feedback when it's asked for. But the important thing, again, we talked a lot about memberships. A lot of teams then have a membership to the facility that's included as part of their team dues. So it's how can we set that up so that your highest paying customers, your most valuable customers, getting most value from your facility and your training as well.
And I don't mind talking about MindBody because they're not here, but this is one of the biggest differentiators of standard platforms versus a specialized sports facility booking platform is MindBody sees everything as a hair salon chair, right? Like you're going to get a haircut in that chair or you're not. That's just not how sports facilities work. You could do an event in that cage. You could do an event on the field. You could do a lesson. You could do a rental. How are you going to do the most high value thing? And if you can't, how do you keep backfilling that with the next most valuable thing that you could put in that space? So that was something that we learned really early. Make the most per square foot, cover your cost centers, and try to get everything in there the most effective way that you can. Secret number 2, build an all-in-one operation. This really goes back to the beginning of Baseline 5 years ago. I remember we launched the system as like Christmas Eve. We were so excited. We pushed the code, and then everybody's excited about it. We got our first clients. So I'm like, oh, this is great. This does everything that I need. About a week later, they're like, hey, we've got team payments coming up. Where can we do that in the system? We're like, oh, we didn't know that you guys had to do that too. Okay, give us a few weeks. So we went back and built that, and then launched that. Everybody's happy. A few weeks later, they come back and it's like, oh, well, now we have to do practice or something. So anyway, there's just so many different things that you have to do in these facilities. We spent the first 3 years of the company really kind of chasing our tails of, man, we got to build that next thing. So then these businesses aren't looking back at us or trying to find another platform or looking at man, there's this gigantic hole in my year of I'm not making revenue here, or I have to switch platforms, or I have to onboard people somewhere else. How do you put everything in the same place? facilities that make more than $1 million a year do have something going year round because they have to pay their bills year round and they have to keep revenue coming in. So there's three main components to this: run teams with recurring payments. We've already talked about that. Group events at scale, and then layer in membership. So you always have to have something going on. These facilities that we work with are an all-in-one option. We've never seen $1 million facility that is the hitting facility. We've never seen it. Maybe it's possible, but we've never seen someone do that. So you do.
I will say, Eli, I have seen that. I've seen it's extremely rare, but I have seen someone who is that specialized making a lot of money. They don't see their families. They don't. One person is particular, very, very, well known within the baseball community. Phenomenal at what he does. He sees his family when his family comes to the facility. That's pretty much it. So it's extremely rare in and of itself. And when it has happened, to me, and I know to a lot of the people I speak to, there's a major cost that comes along with trying to take that approach.
Absolutely. So not only building an all-in-one offering to the families that you're working with, but doing that in a way that feeds all the other things that you're doing. So you're not doing 20 different things. They do work together. And Zack is usually the architect making sure that they do and setting people up the right way. How do you do that?
Yeah, and this flywheel effect is different for everyone. This is the part that helps with the seasonality. It doesn't matter what the first piece is that a new customer is attracted to. If tryouts are coming up, then everyone's familiar with the rush for personalized training leading up to tryouts. They want to get better in the last 2 weeks before tryouts. And it doesn't matter where they join this flywheel, but the important part, and this goes back to 24 unique offerings from these facilities, you have to have something depending on whatever season that family finds themselves in. So again, whether it is tryouts because teams are upcoming, or it's a winter membership for your college athletes who are going to be home over the winter break. There are things that you can be offering throughout the year where maybe someone is signing up for a hitting camp. They didn't know you do X, Y, and Z, but if your online presence displays all of the things that you do properly, now at the end of that event, they realize more things you do and other ways they can be involved. And this really all goes back to that golden rule as well of how do we maximize the value per customer that's coming in. We don't need 5,000 customers walking through the door each month. We need to make sure that we're maximizing the amount of value. So it's bringing in those new customers. It's converting them into more than one offering that you have, developing those athletes over time, where you can start working with a young athlete, but you've already instilled the trust in the family that you have everything they need to get all the way through whatever their goals are. Some athletes have a goal of playing high school ball. Some have a much greater goal. If you can have all of the offerings that support it and show that early on, continue to develop your offerings. This is how you keep them on that flywheel, making sure that you're maximizing that value per customer.
So the lessons feed the tryouts feed the teams feed the lessons. Like it's a very organic circle that as long as you're doing all those things and you're not leaving big gaps in the year for your athletes to go somewhere else to get that value somewhere else, you can keep those athletes. You can get more dollars per user per year. Secret number 3, run more group events. We've kind of been talking about this one the whole time. It goes back to dollars per square foot. How are you making sure that your facility is as optimized as possible? Here's some of the numbers. We've done millions of events at this point, so we've got a pretty good idea of how these different businesses are running and the categories and subcategories within that. The big one here is group training. 94% of scaled facilities do group training. Only 53% of smaller facilities do group training. So not saying that you could run group training out of the gate if you don't have any users yet. It's going to be really hard to fill a class, obviously. But if you're doing as many lessons as you can every day, that is the next step that we see everybody take. And that is how you get to that $1 million mark of, okay, we just don't have the capacity anymore to run this business how we've been running it. We need to do group offerings. We need to get more kids in the same place, provide more value to families without having to expand or do as many lessons as you can every day. So that's the big one. There are some other categories of events that we see scaled facilities do more of. Obviously, tryouts, if you're going to run teams, tryouts is a very natural part of that. Paid versus free tryouts is a contentious thing that we see every year of, oh, we would never do that. And then you've got the other side of like, well, of course we would do that. And we're going to charge a ton of money for it. So there's a lot of ways to think about it. But 80% of scaled facilities do tryouts. 80% of scaled facilities do camps. Showcased and tournaments are some interesting ones. I know there's Obviously, a lot of companies here that are doing that professionally as their whole thing, but we do see a lot of scale facilities do that in-house as a service to families, and as well as partnering with some of those other folks to do that in-house as well. So the math between lessons and rentals and trying to fill your entire event, like one block of event at a time versus group training, going back to Patrick, I think Patrick has the most value per square foot that we've ever seen in a facility. So how do you set that up? What's the math that you're looking at when you're putting together your schedule?
Well, I'm definitely a math geek. I love math. And one of the biggest equations that came to mind early on in my business was when my son was born. I knew that when he was born, I had 5 years to make changes or I was never going to see him again. When I'm home, he's at school. When he's home, I'm at work. So I knew that was not okay with me. I had to do something about that. And along that, I also quickly realized that the life we live as a baseball instruction development place, it puts a lot of strain on families because of the hours that we're gone. So I knew quickly we had to make changes. So, but the key is, and this is one of the biggest things when we talk to our clients, is when the change was set to make for me, I was on a flight and I pulled out a piece of paper. The thing I had to make sure was, okay, I need to be home more. I need to be with my family more. But the player, the client, they are the main character. I'm not becoming the main character. This is not about me. This is about them. So how can I start to build programs that give them better training, give them a longer runway, give them more development, but get me home more? That goes back to kind of the space-time, reconfiguring how the sessions work. Staff, we have clients who they're at the facility all the time. They have to be how it's structured. They have 17 instructors on staff. I have 4. The thing is, right now I'm in Columbus talking with everybody. My facility is packed right now. My coaches are running the programs that we've laid out and set up. Tomorrow I'll be home. I don't know how my son became a Jaguars fan years ago, but he is. So we'll watch the game together, and then I'm going to go to his basketball game, all while the facility is crowded. I go into the facility to train 1 day a week because I want to. I don't have to. I want to. We're still coaches, so I still want to be instructing. But it's putting yourself and moving yourself away. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's starting to lay the groundwork. And the first thing is your programs, how you use your space. But you need a platform to do that. I need a platform that I can use to say, hey, here's how I'm going to make my business better. I will build the programs. I will build the offerings. I will bring in all the technology. All I need the parent and player to do is to be able to get in there, to schedule and to pay. And that's why I'm sitting up here with you guys, is because for my business and for my client's business, you've been tremendous in not only what you offer, but what you've built ever since I came on board in order to let me bring higher ticket offerings in.
Yeah, and to tie that all together, I think if you do look at the specific numbers of the math here, there's a significant difference in revenue per square foot on group training versus individual lessons. I do think this goes back to how Patrick's able to have 4 instructors as opposed to 17 or whatever the case may be. You know, if you have 4 instructors giving 4 private lessons, that's 4 athletes potentially also taking up 4 full cages for that. If there's a group lesson option available, it's 1 instructor, it's 4 athletes at the same time with 3 more cages open. It's easy to see how the math works out there. It's usually one of the first suggestions when people ask us or when people are consulting with Complete Game Solutions of, okay, how can we maximize our space a little better? We have all these athletes coming in. In fact, we can't get all the athletes in who want to be here. What should we be considering? Group training is the first unlock to go to.
And there's the math, and there's also the dev side of how do you technologically build a group lesson. And that took us a while to figure out, but that was a fun one to solve. Moving through this, there's a bunch of fun stuff that goes into this as well. If you go all the way back to the beginning of Baseline, it was called Stat Stuff. We focused more on the statistics and the profiles of players. We quickly found out that's not how you make money in sports. You actually have to build a business. But we did build a lot of cool things that have stayed in the software, and we've been able to integrate that with all the things that you do offer to run your business.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting point. When we were first this original idea of the company, we were talking with facilities about, hey, how can we help with recruiting and things like that? And what we found is facilities were spending almost 100% of their capacity and space of working on the business to actually work on the programming and things like that. So we could never get to this fun stuff. Unlocking some of those things allows the facility to then show off where some of your athletes went to play by easily plugging in your alumni. It allows you to monetize that expensive equipment that's already in the facility. It does allow you to have some of those in-house showcases that certainly at a smaller scale, but even if you're collecting, exit velocities in 60 times, there's a way to plug that into an athlete's profile that tracks progression over time. So if you are working with a young athlete and you do take metrics a couple of times a year, it becomes a retention tool for you as the organization to say, here's how your athlete has grown. By the way, they can also upload videos there. And parents love seeing videos and progression of their athlete to know that some specialized attention is being given. So allowing your business to run itself as best as it can unlocks these doors to do some of the ancillary things that parents are finding cool. It's going to help with the customer churn. It helps with that average spend, and it allows you guys to show off your business a little bit as well.
And really going back to everything that we've said up to this point, and how Patrick's been able to build himself out of the business so that the business is running without him, giving lessons every day of the week and not seeing his family. It unlocks the ability to do a lot of these fun things. So to be here and to talk to you guys, to go to Jaguars games, but also to do things like player profiles and recruiting and more marketing and actually focus on building your business than just running your business. So those are a lot of the things that we've been working on lately of, okay, now that we've been able to automate people completely out of their business, how do you do Google ads and meta ads? And how are you building more of your social media presence? And how are you building this map is one of the coolest features that we've launched. And we've had people switch softwares just for this map to show off. Man, I've got 1,100 kids that have signed over the 10 years that have done this. And it'd be so cool to have them all in a map. And it's great to watch the demos of they'll pull it up and it's just kind of like this. And then this becomes a main component of their social media outreach when they're trying to build teams of, I don't have to tell you about the success, look at the success. This is where we've placed athletes. This is what that looks like. But also having those recruiting profiles that also double as those player development profiles has been a really cool feature that we've built into the app as well. So here's some more patterns that we couldn't build into the show earlier. Also, we do have packets with all these numbers in the entire presentation. If you guys want to pick this up on the way out, but here's some of the fun numbers that we found going through all the data building this presentation. 41% of scaled facilities do in-house programming. The big trend that we've seen lately is remote programming as well. So training the athletes when you're there, but also then when they leave, when they go to college, when they're playing somewhere in the summer, continuing to deliver programming to their phones so that they can do that without being in the facility. And most importantly, you don't churn that customer. So that's something that we've built into the platform. If you can actually build out workouts, it's the simplest workout builder we think is on the market. The second key thing that we've seen going through this data here is passing fees through. So a lot of the legacy platforms will charge you at the end of the month, or they'll do some different things to, not let you focus on running your business, but you're turning into this credit card processing. We do all of that for our accounts. 95% of scaled facilities pass those fees through. So the entire thing ends up being free for them. They don't have to worry at all about that. They can focus on growing their business, which is somehow different than the smaller facilities. They still feel like it's something that they should eat. The location myth is the last one. We see this a lot of people saying, well, I just have to open another facility. I just have to get more square feet and then I'll make more money. It's actually more rare to have $1 million facility than to have a multi-location facility. So it's not about how many feet you have. It's not about how many locations you have. It's about dollars per user and creating value for the users that you have.
Yeah, so to wrap this up, and I appreciate everyone's time. We wanted to save a little time at the end. We have about 5 minutes. We can certainly answer some questions, but a quick pitch on Baseline and how we help with everything that we've discussed today. Eli did a good job of explaining, it's teams or it's tryouts into teams, into memberships, into events. Everyone can imagine, if you're using 4 different tools to do all 4 of those things, then your customer has 4 different logins they need to go. They need to have in 4 different places to sign up for certain things. We put all of that in one platform. It's one phone number that's attached to a user. They log in. The same place they're managing their membership is the same place they're picking their team payments, is the same place they're signing up for the group training that's included for being a part of their team. So putting all of that in one place makes sense for the business. It also makes sense for your customers to make things a little easier. We've seen great success in helping our accounts consolidate platforms that we're using, which is what our goal is.
Oh, and by the way, our platform is free. So
that is a nice help. So yeah, again, thank you everyone for listening. Would love to take a few questions if there are any. If we do go past the next few minutes, we'll be hanging out in the back and would love to talk with anyone who wants to hear a little bit more. Thank you guys.
Jason's got handouts up front if you guys want to pick those up. On your way out, that's got everything, so you don't have to look at the pictures that you took on your phone to try to figure out those numbers. But yeah, do you guys have any questions?
Do you guys handle POS inventory?
We do. It's one of the things that we just released. We're working toward an e-commerce online store as well, but right now we do have a POS so that you can sell Gatorades and t-shirts and stuff at the front of your facility.
Advice for a brand new facility.
That's Patrick's world.
A brand new facility is actually a great thing because we're not undoing mistakes, right? We're not untangling some of the knots that have already been built. The best advice I have for a new facility is to start to lay out the immediate, like for your facility, what are you looking to specialize in? Are you starting off as hitting, pitching? Is it just everything all combined? Do you have a staff?
Everything, group training, are open next month. So
Okay.
Building group training plus.
So the programs, I would say this. The short answer, the programs, definitely something to have a longer conversation about, but the programs would be the biggest thing. It's not the technology. It's not it's nothing that would necessarily shine on an Instagram post, but it's something that you're tapping into the needs of the player and the parent. The parents are bringing the kids there because they want you to basically speak into their life from a baseball standpoint, but from the physical, the mental, everything. Having the programs in place where you're giving them more development than just coming in and getting some swings or getting some throws. I mean, the teams, we talk about the teams. The teams are necessary, but any one of those 7%, they're not a team. They're a player development academy. The team is just a component of the development. So that's what I would say is looking at your programs and making sure that they are maximizing all the areas you want to work with on that player. Because if there's something that's really missing, then they're going to go find that elsewhere. And once that starts, there's a good chance that they will no longer be a part of your program at some point.
I think that's the big thing is selling a complete package and not giving them any air to leave or making it seem like there's an end to their runway. I think that's something really intelligent that Patrick said is, hey, this is where you can get to. You using something like a Protus or using something like Rapsodo or like these Ollie cameras and whatnot of we can get there and here's the path to get there. I can get you where you need to be. You don't have to go anywhere else. We can service everything in the same place.
Last note, those first two pieces on the flywheel, attract and convert the customers. You have to have a way to get them in the door the first time, but from there, it's messaging them after, email and a text that goes to their phone. Maybe there's a promo code to sign up for a second thing. It's getting them on that flywheel so those become recurring customers, not someone who just checked out the facility one time and was like, hey, that was a cool event.
We can also help with like localized Google ads and make sure that you're the first thing that's showing up in your city. So then people are looking for it. You're the first place they're going to go. On the business side, we've scaled baseline. Oh, yep.
I started 6 years ago. 2 years in, I started a team at 7. Bring those two together.
Simply, I was going to say you don't have to bring them together because the software will allow you to keep the branding separate, but it's still one login for the customer. So you can have your specialized team branding for tryouts and registration. You can have your facility branding for those non-team athletes that you still want to attract. You can keep them separate, but it's still one platform. And for you and your administrators, it's one login. So you don't necessarily have to.
The other thing is there are some business advantages to having a non-for-profit and a for-profit and how you have those. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So that is how we recommend setting it up. We're not giving legal advice, but that is standard of what we've seen and having those things work together. Yeah. Okay. So you're doing it. Yeah.
The only thing I would jump in with that though is, and we have to get a little deeper look. We could talk about this. Are you creating confusion for the players and parents and prospective clients, that's something we would have to look at.
We do see a lot of that too, of like 5 businesses running out of the same building. And then people come to us and are like, hey, I'm trying to sign up for this. And we're like, okay, I know it's the same name in the same place, but it's not the same thing. So
Guys, again, thank you so much for giving us some time this morning. If there were any questions that were unanswered, again, we'll be sticking around. I really appreciate everyone. Thank you, guys.